What's up? What's up? Give everybody a minute to join. Okay, now we're in the right place. Let's talk about Cody Balmer. Cody Balmer, some new information has come out, and people are still wondering about his political affiliations and blah, 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 and who's he with and who's he rolling with and what set does he rep. Thankfully, I didn't use a notification, so it's all good. But so Pennsylvania Governor Manchin attacked suspect. He admitted to harboring hatred towards Shapiro. Okay, the guy's a total weirdo. Cody Balmer, 38 years old, was first identified to police by an ex-lover. Oh, God. Who was he sleeping with? A man? No, I don't know. Allegedly confessed that to her that he wanted her to call the police to turn him in. I guess he's turned on by that. According to the criminal complaint obtained by Fox News, it was only a short time later that Balmer turned himself in outside of Pennsylvania State Police. Oh, so I'm thinking, I thought there was like a big investigation. The police did like this marvelous work and used technology and AI and the supposed video cameras that the fortress of the governor has. No, the ex side piece snitched. That's how he got caught. And he wanted to get caught. There was no brazen pat on the back, press conference, whatever. So they transported him to the hospital due to a medical event not connected to the incident or his arrest. What happened? What kind of medical event you had? Something looks off with this guy because I posted this on Facebook, his mugshot. His mugshot, he has like dead eyes, like some MK Ultra, whatever, if the switch was flipped. Something wrong. He's heavily medicated or something. I was looking at this guy like, holy moly, what's up with this dude? And I saw his Facebook. I don't know if they scrubbed his info. Yeah, it looked like he had a bunch of kids, unless he was just hanging out with somebody. Looked like he had a bunch of kids. His dead eyes. It looks like he's heavily medicated. Look at that. Sedated. Drugs. God knows what he's on. And then wait to hear the details if you haven't heard so already, because while being interviewed by the troopers, Balmer admitted to harboring hatred towards Governor Shapiro. He allegedly told investigators he removed gasoline from a lawnmower and poured it into a Heineken bottle he found at his residence. Balmer said he walked an hour to the governor's mansion with the intention of throwing his homemade Molotov cocktails into the residence. He admitted to scaling the perimeter fence, breaking 2 windows with a hammer, and throwing a Molotov cocktail inside, or the cocktails inside. He admitted that he was aware of the possibility that Shapiro and others were home at the time. Wow. And he said that if he would have ran into Shapiro face to face, he would have beaten him with the hammer. Following the interview, Balmer was taken into custody. Wow. Police say the arson suspect was caught on security cameras both in and outside the mansion wearing a black snap-on jacket, black boots, and carrying a bag. Troopers say they found the jacket, bag, and small sledgehammer. Wow. Mama mia. Let me just pull up the Pennsylvania arrest warrants page. I should follow that page, actually. I'll follow that page. The documents that they posted here. It's the probable cause affidavit, okay? Oh, I hate this thing keeps opening up in Paint. I don't want Paint. Open with photos. I have to change the default thing. Okay. Let's zoom out. Let's do that. All right. So 4/13/2025, probable cause affidavit, Trooper Michael Gregg. The police state advised of a fire that occurred at the governor's residence. This address falls under the jurisdiction of Pennsylvania State Police. Upon arrival, numerous security cameras captured footage depicting an individual forcing entry into the residence and intentionally igniting the fire. That's kind of crazy, too, that nobody in the house heard that. I guess he was on the other side of the house or mansion. East. Further, it was learned that Joshua Shapiro and the First Lady Shapiro were inside the residence, as well as additional guests and staff members. Video footage was obtained. Security cameras positioned both within and outside the residence. Upon review, the footage of the defendant, later identified as Cody Balmer, was observed climbing over an exterior perimeter fence, which parallels Geiger Street. The defendant was observed wearing a black snap-on jacket, black boots, and carrying a bag. The defendant approached the piano room windows and on the south side of the governor's residence and proceeded to break an exterior window. The defendant then threw an incendiary device into the residence through the broken window. After throwing the device, flames were observed on the interior of the residence. The defendant then moved to an adjacent window and again broke the glass. The defendant proceeded through the broken window, and entered the residence. Once inside, the defendant deployed a second incendiary device in the dining room, resulting in additional areas of the residence catching fire. After throwing the second incendiary device, the defendant approached the dining room exit. Upon reviewing video footage captured by a surveillance camera at this location, it became apparent that the defendant was wearing two different colored gloves, one orange and one yellow. Okay. The defendant kicked the dining room door open and exited the red. How did nobody inside the house hear that shit? Inside the mansion. So he kicks the dining room door open and exited the residence. The defendant was observed leaving the property toward the same direction he had entered and climbed over the perimeter fence along Geiger Street. The defendant was finally observed running through a parking lot and away from the governor's residence in a southeast direction. Dang. So his ex-lover snitched on him. Oh man, that keeps happening. How do I change this thing? Choose another app. No. I gotta figure this out later. So annoying. Okay. So he ran through the parking lot. Okay. And as part of the subsequent investigation, investigators performed a search of the governor's residence. Evidence associated with the incident. Significant fire damage was observed throughout both the piano room and dining room. Additionally, 2 broken glass bottles were found in the dining room, both of which were identified members of the Pennsylvania. Both the piano room and the dining room. 2 broken glass bottles were found in the dining room, both of which were identified. What am I reading wrong here? Let me zoom in. I'm getting old here. Identified members of Pennsylvania State Police Fire Marshal Unit as Heineken beer bottles containing gasoline. Additionally, investigators performed a canvass of the area surrounding the governor's residence. By way of collecting number of videos captured by privately owned security cameras, members identified the path taken by the defendant after fleeing the residence. More specifically, the defendant was observed traveling east on Pfeffer Street. As a result, members conducted a sweep of Pfeffer Street and located 2 gloves, matching those worn by the defendant. I wonder why he wore 2 different color gloves. Is that just what he had? Is he just scattered like that? Or was he trying to be unique? 2 different gloves? I don't know. Were located in the trash receptacle. The gloves were seized and described as having a strong smell of gasoline emanating from them. During this investigation, PSP Harrisburg was contacted by a female who observed that her ex-paramour, Cody Balmer, was the individual responsible for setting fire to the governor's residence. When asked why this individual believed Balmer set the fire, this individual related Balmer confessed to the act and wanted her to call the police. I love you so much and I want to change my life, Ron. I still love you. Please call the police. A short time later, a member of the Pennsylvania State Police was approached outside the department headquarters located on Elmerton Avenue by a male identified as Cody Balmer. Balmer informed the trooper that he was responsible for the fire at the governor's residence and wished to turn himself in. Okay. Prior to the interviewing Balmer, he was advised of his Miranda rights. Balmer advised that he understood his rights and agreed to speak with troopers. During this interview, Balmer admitted to harboring hatred towards Governor Shapiro. He advised on the date in question he removed gasoline from a lawnmower and poured it into Heineken bottles he found at his residence. Balmer advised he walked approximately an hour from his residence to the governor's residence, which I guess an hour is not that much, I guess. I mean, I guess with the intentions that he had, it's kind of weird, yeah. But okay, so he walked over there with the intention of throwing his homemade Molotov cocktails into the residence. Balmer admitted that once at the residence, he scaled the perimeter fence, broke 2 windows with a hammer, and threw the Molotov cocktails inside. Balmer was also advised that prior to committing these acts, he was aware that his actions would result in negative consequences. When asked if he was aware of Governor Shapiro and others were home at the time of the act, he advised that he was aware of this possibility. He also admitted that he knew he could hurt people. And he mentions here that if he were to encounter Governor Shapiro, he would have beaten him with the hammer. Balmer also advised that after leaving the governor's residence, he returned to his residence where he removed his clothing worn during the commission of these acts. As a result, troopers responded to Balmer's residence, seized the Snap-on giant. So everything's at the house. Okay. All the evidence, he's on video. The conclusion of this interview, Balmer was processed and transported to prison. Amazing. Amazing. And here's a picture of the guy again, Cody. Kinderman's Auto Repair. Is that where he worked? Sadly, there are Christians more committed to the Second Amendment than they are to the Second Commandment. And here he posts, responding to somebody, I'm a registered socialist, so I had gotten about 27 mail-in ballots. I got to vote for everyone twice and vote none of the above in person. Plus casting a vote for my favorite cartoonist. Jaw dropping. Here's some more pictures. That's Cody. Got the little ponytails and his gun. Cody. What were you thinking? Oh, yeah. By the way, Christina did mention they got hit by an earthquake. San Diego rocked. Balmer had separately noted during Biden's presidential term that gas was cheaper under President Trump. He insisted at the time that he did not play favorites, especially since they all suck. Now authorities in Pennsylvania are prepping a criminal complaint. Damn. We look crazy right there. Oh. Biden supporters shouldn't exist. Where were you his first run? Well, aware of the trash he is. As for the second, still knew that what that scum is. Now, why did y'all forget? What, because he did? Rest in peace, Joe Biden. Whoops, that's in May. Not my president either. Balmer's social media profile also offers an insight into the state of mind. He made chilling posts about former President Joe Biden and his supporters, arguing that they shouldn't exist, even suggesting Biden was going to get killed. Ooh. Damn.
Morning, the city of Harrisburg and Harrisburg Bureau of Fire were the targets, as well as the governor of Pennsylvania, of a domestic terrorism incident when the governor's mansion was firebombed by a domestic terrorism suspect. It put not only the first family of Pennsylvania, the firemen of the Harrisburg Bureau of Fire, but every Pennsylvanian on watch and in awe of how quickly the scope of that fire escalated, and that we could have a fire of such substance in our historic governor's mansion. We were quickly on the scene and met with the
they talking about earthquake. Y'all want to cover the earthquake for a little bit? Actually, I gotta go soon.
The
but
complex itself has a lot of challenges to it. It is a very large complex, and it is very secure, right? So we can't just drive fire trucks to the front of the thing like we normally can do if we're going to a fire here in the 600 block of Dolphin Street. So it posed some challenges. Number one, finding where the fire was to start, and then additionally being able to gain entry. So we had to cut some gates, and we're going to be releasing on the city website probably later today a really brief video from Wagon 3 that's behind me that shows some of those initial actions of the work that had to be done before we even got to the fire, right? So they quickly identified we had to cut some gates. They were able to make those cuts in the gates to get those hose lines stretched back to where the building was on fire. And we had a very significant fire burning. Everybody was down there in the ballroom and the reception area of the building. Unfortunately, we did have to force entry, so it wasn't just as easy as walking up to the building, opening the door, and getting there. So we did have more work that we had to do to get inside that building. Once we got inside the building and started getting it opened up, we were able to quickly contain that fire from spreading. When we look at the fire grew fairly quickly because it was accelerated by those Molotov cocktails that were used in the firebombing. It was a very surreal scene when I got there, about 15 minutes into it, seeing fire coming from the governor's mansion. When I first went in to brief the scene before the fire was even out, it became very apparent that this was not an ordinary fire. Number one, not because it was just in the governor's mansion, but because of the circumstances that I saw inside surrounding the fire. So I immediately reached out to Pennsylvania State Police to bring their arson investigation team in, and we started to preserve that scene while also, again, needing to put out the fire, but we needed to preserve that scene and that evidence so that that case could move forward with quality evidence that wasn't destroyed in the firefight. And that's often a challenge dealing with a building that's on fire, preserving that evidence that's been left behind by the perpetrators. And so we were quickly able, within about a half hour, got control of it. We chased a couple of hot spots in the building, and from that point on, we knew it was. I was briefed on the video of the actual perpetrator in the building, and so at that point, we kind of pulled all of our folks out. A couple of things on fire growth and fire dynamics, the way it grew. Luckily for the governor and his family, there were doors closed between that main portion of the ballroom and the hallway that leads to the main and master staircase going to the second floor. It would have been a totally different fire and a totally different outcome, most likely, had that door not been closed. I want to talk a little bit about the personal aspect of it as well, because fire affects Americans on a daily basis. Here in Pennsylvania, we kill about as many Pennsylvanians as any.
All right, so I just want to cover really those little brief updates on Cody, a little bit of a weirdo. I'm going to launch this earthquake stream real quick just to check it out. I might have to step away, but I want to at least introduce it. Maybe I'll leave it up running, depending on the outcome. But there's an earthquake that just happened now, so let's check it out for a bit. We'll do another redirect. I'm going to drop the link in the chat just in case it doesn't work. Boop, boop, boop. Let's check out what's going on with this earthquake.